Hey, everybody, it is Trags, Mike Petralia, back with the latest installment of the Jungle Roar podcast, powered by our good friends at Prize Picks and the CLNS Media Network. My sincere pleasure to welcome back a colleague and very good friend, I would consider him, the one and only James Rapien of SI.com and BengalsTalk.com. James, it's been a while. How you been?
Hectic, busy, and it's always good to see you, Trags. Thanks for having me.
So we've got a lot to get to in a relatively short period of time. Shemar Stewart, when is he going to get signed?
The thing is I don't care. I don't care that he's not signed. And that is like the average fan. Like I've had friends that are like, man, I can't believe the Bengals aren't signing the first round pick. And it's like, it's June. I don't really care about that. What I care about is that he's not on the field. And so for whatever the thing is that's keeping him from getting on the field for this offseason program, for potentially mandatory minicamp, like those are valuable reps for a guy that, let's be honest, pre-draft, every draft analyst said he needed work from a pass rushing technique standpoint. And so that's what can you get on the field? So however, if it's his side, if it's the Bengals, if it's both of them, go to Jeff Ruby's, get a steak, figure it out to get Shemar on the field.
So I guess the reason it does matter is the contractual disagreement between Andrew Brandt, who is a former Packers football executive and representing Shemar Stewart, and the Bengals. And on the Business of Sports podcast, Andrew Brandt provided more detail about the holdup in negotiations, and we're quoting here. They, the Bengals, are basically putting in a default clause that says if the player defaults, and a default could be like a breach, like a discipline issue, a steroid or drug test issue, a morals clause issue, getting in trouble, being suspended, being fined, whatever default is defined as, you can void future guarantees. The reason this matters, of course, as you well know, James, first round rookie deals are fully guaranteed. And in other words, if this happens in year one, you can say, well, years 2, 3, and 4 are not guaranteed. And that is something the Bengals are trying to impose for their own precedent, where they can do it now going forward with all rookies and maybe with veterans. And Andrew Brandt is saying, not so fast. Do not agree to that, Shemar. And that is essentially where the holdup is. You read that accurately, or am I being, fair there, James?
Yeah, and the thing that I thought was really interesting with Brandt's analysis was that this could go into training camp. And I hadn't allowed that to creep into my mind with the Trey Hendrickson stuff and everything else that's going on and gone on this season or this offseason. It's like, I haven't let that get there. And then he said it, and I'm like, oh my God. Are we going to be talking about a Shemar Stewart hold in? The first round pick is at camp. Maybe he doesn't show up to camp, but is at camp, but doesn't participate in on-field drills. Like that's what really stinks here. And to not know the details of the medical waiver part of it, because I get the Bengals side. You're trying to get more protection just in case.
Sure.
And set that precedent. On the other side, if you're Shemar Stewart, well, Marius Mims didn't have to do that. Myles Murphy didn't have to do that.
Right.
I'm not going to do that. I was picked higher than both of those guys. I consider myself a favorite for Defensive Rookie of the Year. You should want me on the field so I can help fix your defense. So I totally get Shemar not wanting to agree to that as well. And so can they agree to do what Demetrius Knight did? We've seen Demetrius Knight Jr. on the field. Why?
Yes, and he is not signed yet. Correct.
Because he signed that injury protection part of it. But yeah, I think it's really interesting because who blinks first? The Bengals need Shemar on the field. His money is going to be guaranteed. In the past, they've done it the other way. So this may be one of those situations where if you're Shemar Stewart, you can wait them out a little bit. And at the same time, they're trying to get you to sign something to get you on the field, to put pressure that way. I don't know. I think that element is really interesting. And I don't think anyone would really care if he was practicing, but he's not practicing. So it's a huge, huge deal. And it's going to continue to be a topic until he's either signed, on the field, or hopefully both.
Shemar Stewart and Andrew Brandt both know his only leverage is not to be participating in practice. That is his only leverage as a rookie, right?
I can't believe we're talking about leverage and
well,
this
it's
stuff
sad,
with
but
the
okay,
rookie.
but let me back up here and let's
Yeah.
remember who the
Not that
owners
you're
of the
wrong. Yeah.
But let's remember who the owners of the Cincinnati Bengals are. And I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago on CLNSCincy.com. They're lawyers. They are lawyers first, business people second, family third, football fourth. I believe that is the way the Bengals have always treated their business. They want to win, but they are lawyers first. And I have a question for you. If the if Mike Brown and Katie Blackburn were not lawyers, would this be such a big deal? Would this even be an issue? Because I don't think it would be.
I mean, I don't. It's their way, and so yeah. If you want to say ingrained in their way is the lawyer background, like I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I do. Like they don't lose many negotiations. Trey Hendrickson is trying to figure that navigate those waters right now, and obviously his whole camp, not just Trey himself, but it's tough. It's tough to win those type of negotiations. And by the way, they get it wrong a lot. It's not like they're always right. Lawyer or not, education or not, don't care where you went to school. It doesn't matter. The Bengals front office is
they get it wrong from the football perspective a lot. That's what you're saying, right? To be clear here.
Oh, no doubt. And from like I wrote about this on Monday morning at BengalsTalk.com, what Robert Mays said about Jamar's.
Yes, I was going to get to that as a matter of fact.
Okay, but which we can get to it. I won't. This is a nice tease then. But sometimes you're not the smartest in the room, and sometimes those things do hurt. You know, like that.
Yeah,
that's what that tells me, because and we can get to it. But yeah, I just. By the way, that's something we wrote about in March after the deal.
Yes, it is.
Locally, it's been covered. Like I've been all over it. And Robert pointed out, I'm like, let's highlight this again, because it's really the story of the offseason, I would say, Bengals wise. Not Trey, not Shemar Stewart, but what they did at wide receiver and what maybe they didn't do from a contract standpoint.
So when you don't sign your first round pick and he doesn't participate in OTAs and off-season workouts, you get the following from one of your rivals. And you wrote about this morning. It's hilarious. Ravens defensive back Marlon Humphrey appeared to take a shot at Stewart and the Bengals after Baltimore signed their first-round pick, Malachi Starks, last week, actually, on Thursday. The contract wasn't signed, but he's still practicing. And then he tweeted that with a clapping emoji. He later denied that it was a shot at the Bengals. James, we know it was a shot at the Bengals, correct?
Yeah, I don't know how it wasn't. I don't know how it wasn't.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about the only draft pick that's healthy that isn't participating in the offseason program. And he's in Cincinnati, and that's a rival, and that's clearly your biggest rival in the division, and your only true competition in the division if you're the Ravens. Like, you know, and by the way, this guy was drafted to help shut down Shemar, or help shut down Lamar. Shemar was drafted to shut down Lamar. We'll see if that happens.
Right.
And so, yeah, definitely a shot at the Bengals. There's no doubt, even though he backtracked and said it was about agents. No, it wasn't.
Well, since you brought it up, it was something that was brought up by Robert Mays. The contractual structure of both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, their extensions. And you have it up on your site, and you wrote about it in March, and it was Robert Mays saying the following on the Athletic Football Show. Go look at the contract structures for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Go look at them. Combined against the cap this year, those two players are going to be making about $50 million. That's about what they were going to be making before they signed the extensions. You look at every other major wide receiver extension over the last 3 or 4 years, and you look at the one cap number and how that plays into the broader AAV. CeeDee Lamb, who was on a contract that is in the same area code as Jamar Chase's, made $8 million against the cap in year one. That's nothing, really. Jamar will be at $25 million. He's not wrong, right, James? He's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong. This is something where they realistically could have cleared probably $12 to $14 million in cap space. So if you think of it in free agent terms, well, that could be Brandon Sheriff. That could be Trey Hendrickson's extra money this year. That could be Brandon Sheriff and insert whatever left guard that you really wanted them to sign in free agency. Maybe you wanted another pass rusher. They could have went that route. They could have went and got Javon Holland, the top safety. The point is like, it's resources that you could have said, all right, we'll use them this year to make our roster better because we're in win now mode.
Mm-hmm.
And instead they said, no, we'll add to your cap hit this year. So then they could say, oh, well, see, we spent, and that sounds great. You spent, but remember in February when Duke Tobin said, I want to make this team better. And I want to pay our guys, but I don't want to pay more for the same team. The Bengals are basically doing that. There's some new faces, of course, and obviously they're going to be banking on the coaching staff. Heck, they just announced that they're bringing in a few new scouts and stuff. Okay. But on-field talent-wise, you're really banking on the young guys, and they could have done more in free agency. And what they would probably say is, yeah, it was a poor free agent crop, fine, but there are always guys that you can add. There's still guys that they can add as we're talking today that would help this team and make this team deeper and better and more talented. And so to do that, to structure those contracts the way they did, and to not maximize, and not even maximize, but just get more cap space and cap room with those two deals, it really seems like they either, because I don't think it's a cash thing. There's going to be a lot of people that are saying, oh, well, it's cash. And no, they have plenty of cash. I don't
know. Here's what I'm going to jump in
worry
here.
about that at all.
We've heard them say before, we've heard the front office mention the term kicking the can down the road. They don't want to kick the can down the road. Is this them saying, look, we want to pay what they're owed up front so that we don't have to worry about it as much in years 2, 3, and 4 down the road? Is it as simple as that, James?
Maybe in their minds, but it really doesn't make sense because the cap is always going up. And they have plenty of cap space, and they're not spending. They don't have a lot of players under contract with big money contract. Like Jamar T. Who else? You're going to sell me on the BJ Hill contract?
No.
Basically a 2-year deal. I mean, there's just not a lot of guys. And yeah, maybe they pay some of those guys. Maybe Miles Murphy's awesome this year, and then they sign him to an extension. But that's an if. In reality, this idea that they need to operate in a 5-year window is BS. Because think about it. Joe Burrow's been in the league for 5 years. 5 years is forever. It feels like that is such a long time. NFL windows are 2 to 3 years. In 3 at the absolute max. Think about how long ago it felt like it was when we were at Arrowhead and the Bengals left after losing in the AFC Championship game in 2020. January 23.
23.
At the end of the 2022 season. Yeah. Like that feels like forever ago, and it's 2.5 years ago. And so for them to do that when they easily could have taken that money and gotten another pass rusher or another insert whatever, and they could have done that during free agency, and instead it felt like they were busy with Jamar and T and negotiating those deals when the whole rest of the league was adding to their rosters. It's not the offseason that I thought they were going to have. And when I look at the Jamar and T contracts, I expected them to sign those guys, and they did, and they deserve praise for that. But the how matters, and I hope that people understand that part too.
He is James Rapien, does a phenomenal job covering the Cincinnati Bengals for SI.com, BengalsTalk.com, along with Jay Morrison, and also has a great show, Enter the Jungle podcast, and a video cast. How would you categorize that? Because I want to refer to that in its proper platform.
No, you're right. Show. I would call it a show, and then it's also available in podcast form, but certainly the visuals on YouTube and FanDuel Sports Network. I
love watching it. He is James Rapien, again, of BengalsTalk.com. Want to tell you about Prize Picks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Cash in on the basketball playoffs with Prize Picks. Don't miss your last chance to add players from the court to your Prize Picks lineups, whether it's points, rebounds, assists. Take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. Turn your playoff hot takes into tickets to basketball's championship series. Starting with the play-in round, every lineup you make on Prize Picks will enter you in the Takes Two Tickets sweepstakes, which could get you and a +1, a VIP trip to the championship. Every Tuesday, Prize Picks will discount several projections on the board, usually by 15 to 25%. And every Friday is Flex Friday. Make sure you opt in and tap the checkbox in your lineup builder to be eligible for the protected play. Choose squares from any game on the board. If your lineup does not win, you get your net losses back in promo funds up to your promo limit as soon as the lineup settles. Download the app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Back with James Rapien of BengalsTalk.com. What about Trey Hendrickson? What do you think is the next chip to fall? Are we looking at a hold-in for Trey through the mandatory minicamp? Does he show up? Mandatory minicamp is June 10th through 12th. If you had to wager right now, James, is he at minicamp? Oh, can't hear you, James.
Sorry about that. 0 chance unless he gets a deal. It will be like that. Can't hear you, Trey, because he's not going to be there. That'll be his mic will be muted as well. Like I think I would be stunned. I think that's why he showed up a few weeks ago to give his thoughts, share his thoughts, and then say, "All right, well, I've done what I can do on the media side of things." And so I don't think Trey necessarily loves to do that. Shocker. We know that. It's not like we talked a ton with Trey over the past few years. And so if he doesn't get a deal before then, and he's probably not going to, would be shocked if we're talking about a Trey Hendrickson extension between now and mandatory minicamp. If that doesn't happen, I would be even more shocked if he showed up, because I don't know what that would do. He said his piece. I think now it's, all right, can you make the Bengals feel your absence? And maybe mandatory minicamp is it. Maybe it goes farther than that. But no, I would be stunned if he's on the field for mandatory minicamp.
Yeah, and I just get the sense it matters to the coaching staff that he's there, and it would hurt the coaching staff. I don't think it would move the needle in the front office. That, to me, is, if you're looking at the long game here, the Bengals aren't going to budge. You and me both know that, James, right?
Well, what does budging mean?
Does budging that's mean, a great question. Significantly altering the offer that they reportedly had on the table to Trey to begin with. That's what it means.
Yeah.
Whether that's 26, 27, 28 a year, and I think it's probably in that neighborhood. I don't think they're going to say, well, we'll move it up to 30 or 31 a year. I don't see that happening.
I think, to me, it's interesting because if I'm the Bengals, what I would offer Trey, I would get him to like 28 this year. Like, and maybe that's where the number comes from, because 28 on an annual basis now is definitely below market value. But if you get him from 16 million this year in base salary to 28, and that could be a signing bonus or whatever, well, then you feel pretty good about it. And so what I would do is I would offer him a 2-year, $76 million extension. So 2 years on top of this year, 76, you get 12 of that this year, and then it's a 2-year, $64 million extension. Still below market, still below Danielle Hunter, still below Micah Parsons, still below these guys, That second year of the deal probably doesn't have any guaranteed money in it, and you can get out of it if you need to. But it gets him cash flow now. It gives him another year of security where he's essentially guaranteed to be on the team in 2026, which I do think he deserves. And at the same time, he needs to still perform well to get that 2027, that year then. Will they go there? I don't think they're there. If they're at 26, that's insulting. If it's 28 this year and then they want to do a 1 year after that, fine. But then you're so close and you can add that second year and it can be we can get out of this at $6 or $7 million in cap, like whatever it is, whatever it would look like that wouldn't bother me because I think Trey is a pretty safe bet to be a solid player. And right now he's the only one that you could say, all right, for the next 3 years, this year in 2026 and 2027, right, is going to be a pillar of what you're like. You literally don't know of any other player on the team that's going to be that because of contract or previous performance or youth or whatever. So that's where I would be. I don't think the Bengals are there. Now, are they willing to offer him a 2-year deal? Probably, but it's probably in the $50-something million extension range, which is just way off. And so I do wonder. I don't think he's going to blink. At the same time, he did blink once when he took that 1-year extension that was on the table for quite some time. And so will that change things, or is that why the Bengals are approaching this the way they are? I think it's interesting.
What were your biggest takeaways from Ja'Marr Chase addressing the media for whatever it was, 18 minutes last week? I found him to be very personable, called out Jeff Hobson. That was hilarious for showing up late to the scrum in front of his locker. I just think that Ja'Marr Chase seems to be in a different mental space this year going forward. And I think that's a good thing, given the fact he's coming off the best year of his career and one of only, I believe, 5 Triple Crown receiving seasons since the merger.
He's the best in the world. To me, it's really, it's always close when you're talking about the best, and there's going to be people that say Justin Jefferson. I know PFF had AJ Brown, and that's not even a real debate. I think we haven't seen the best out of Ja'Marr yet, and that's so
scary. Yeah,
it is, because last year, think about it, down the stretch last year, he dropped at least 2 touchdowns in those final weeks, like multiple stone cold drops in the end zone. and so he should have at least broke Carl Pickens' touchdown record. Instead, he tied it. I think 2,000 yards is certainly in the realm, and it's one of those things where if they had a little more balance from a defensive standpoint, and the defense was getting a few more stops, creating a few more turnovers, well, then the offense, man, that they can put up even bigger numbers. And so I do think that Ja'Marr, 10 years from now, I'm not sure we saw the Triple Crown Ja'Marr as the best year of his career. I think there's a realistic chance that he tops that. And we'll see if he does. It's a high bar. And that doesn't mean he'll win the Triple Crown that whatever year. But could I see him getting 20-plus receiving touchdowns in a year? Absolutely. Could I see him get 2,000 receiving yards? Absolutely. 150 catches? I could see that. I could see any of those. Maybe not all 3 in the same year, but I could see those. And really the yards and touchdowns, that would be what I'm focused on is can they get even more big plays, even more scoring plays? The catches are fun, but it's kind of like completions. They matter, but they don't matter as much. Can you have more of those big plays? I think that's certainly possible for Ja'Marr.
And that's where you're looking for your biggest, don't want to say biggest improvement, but if you're looking for an area of growth from Ja'Marr, is that it? More touchdowns or?
Yeah, well, he had so many touchdowns. I just think
17. Yes,
it's almost like an offensive. As an offense, I know Ja'Marr is capable of doing more from an explosive standpoint. Now it's tough because defenses are like, let's make sure one doesn't beat us deep. Let's make sure one doesn't beat us for the big play and break a tackle. I get it; it's hard, but it's just he's that kind of guy. Randy Moss, like, if you want to go running back, LaDainian Tomlinson, like whoever you want to think of greats that make insane plays. Well, he's that. And so I think the bar, he's already moved it up a couple times in Bengals history. And there's no reason for me, at least, to think that at 24, just turned 25, that he's not just now entering his prime.
It's incredible. We'll finish up with this and then let you go, James. Pro Football Focus named a bounce back candidate for all 32 teams. The Bengals bounce back candidate this year, safety Gino Stone. And based on the way he, played last year, I think it's pretty obvious that he needs to bounce back for this defense to take a step forward and be better this year. What do you think of Pro Football Focus's tabbing of Gino Stone as a bounce back candidate?
Yeah, I think it's certainly in the realm of possibility, and the Bengals are certainly believe it. I mean, they kept him around. They haven't added a safety. The safety room looks the same, minus Von Bell. So you lose a veteran in that room. And I think they believe in Gino. Now we'll see. I understood the signing at the time. I was underwhelmed by his performance last year. Doesn't mean he's not a good football player. Doesn't mean he can't rebound, but you got to see it. And he certainly needs to be in prove-it mode. I think he's in the right mindset. And so, yeah, maybe he goes out there and does that. I think the other thing is the defense was so just lost at times last year. And so maybe that's it. Is maybe Al Golden's going to have everyone on a string, everyone in lockstep, knowing what they need to do. And what that does is then that allows Gino Stone to do what he did in Baltimore, which is be the ball hawk in his final year with the Ravens. And he certainly has a nose for the football. Had some interceptions down the stretch for the Bengals last year. And so I could see it. Now, it's one of the many ifs. I think there are a lot of bounce back candidates that you could throw in there, and especially on defense, and either bounce back or break out. And so they're relying on a lot of that. Bounce back, breakout, bounce back. We'll see if Al Golden and company can get it done. But yeah, I do think Gino is talented. And so maybe he does have a big year for the Bengals. They certainly need a few of these guys like that, few veterans to establish themselves. Maybe it's a Logan Wilson again, to remind everyone who he is. And then Gino Stone. And then maybe you feel TJ Slayton's presence on the interior. And now you're talking about leveling up at all three levels of your defense before you even start talking about edge rushers or pressure or cornerbacks or anything like that. So we'll see. But yeah, I do think pressure's on for Gino Stone. Contract year. The Bengals made him take a pay cut. Fine. He's still going to start. And it's on him now to show that he deserves, dare I say, an extension? Dare I say an extension? You never know.
You did dare to say it, and you said it. He is James Rapien of BengalsTalk.com and SI.com, and also host of Enter the Jungle. You can subscribe to that on YouTube.com and also view it on the FanDuel Sports Network. James, thanks as always for joining me.
Trags, you're the man. Thank you.
All right. He's James Rapien. My name is Mike Petralia. And until next time, keep that jungle roaring.